we know that no living organism can exist in isolation. And in the long history of evolution, from the very first bacterial cells, which emerged about 3.5 billion years ago, from that point, those cells formed communities known as bacterial colonies. And ever since then, nature has created and sustained communities at all levels of life. And if you want to, I can, tell you why I think community is so important. There are several reasons. So the first one I mentioned already, nature sustains life by creating and nurturing communities. And if we want to do that, then we will find very soon that one of the greatest obstacles in the way of creating a sustainable future is a constant assault by corporate advertising, which tells us every day that in order to be happy, you have to consume. You have to buy our products. That's what will make you happy, nothing else. And so excessive material consumption, which is used by the corporate world to sustain the illusion of perpetual growth, corporate and economic growth. This excessive consumption is seen as the way to happiness. Now, if we can show that true happiness lies in human relationships rather than material consumption, in other words, in community, then this is the biggest and most effective counter-dose. So that's the second reason why community is so.
Also, if you, which I know from having lived in an intentional community, if you organize our patterns of consumption communally, you get a higher standard of life with less consumption.
Yes, and that's also what the transition down movement does. There are many movements now who are trying to do that. So that's the second reason. The third reason is that what we need to really live sustainably and change the design of our physical structures and social institutions, we need to learn a lot how to do that. And it's not learning in terms of just absorbing new information, but it's learning that is transformative learning that really changes our being, our values. And in my experience, community is the most effective vehicle for transformative learning as a learning community. Mm-hmm. So those are three reasons. And there's a fourth one, and that is something we haven't talked about yet, or implicitly we have, but not explicitly. And that is that the change to a new paradigm is not only a conceptual problem, but it's also a problem, and even more so a problem of values, mm-hmm. a problem of ethics. Mm-hmm. And ethics is usually talked about in relation to religion or philosophy, but there is also a scientific approach that I have recently discovered to the question of ethics. And that is that, as I said before, nature has sustained life by creating and nurturing communities, and natural selection has favored those communities in which the individual members behave for the benefit of the community as a whole. And in the human realm, that's what we call ethics. But it's common to all of life. Behavior for the common good is ethical behavior. And that means that ethics is always related to community. So these are several reasons why community is so important.